Today I wanted to share with you the fastest way to fix a thin lawn, whether it be dead or simply patchy at the end of winter. You know, before spring starts and it really gets warm. Typically great looking cool season lawns are going to receive an application of spring pre-emergent, a weed preventer, by the time April 1st rolls around, depending on where you live, of course. Pre-emergent prevents weeds from growing in the lawn, and it usually lasts for a few months at least, 3 to 5 months or so. Eventually it wears off, and by September, many cool season lawns then get overseeded to thicken them out even more throughout the fall. That way, by the time winter rolls around, you've got a full lawn full of grass and no weeds. But the thing is now, before spring starts, if your lawn happens to be way too thin with a lot of bare dirt showing, maybe it's just too thin for your liking, then the simplest trick of them all is to just put down grass seed in March. If you do that, however, you have to skip the pre-emergent. But this wouldn't be an interesting video if it was that easy. Although I've grown many kinds of grass from seed in early spring, I don't advise the vast majority of people to grow them, except for annual ryegrass. If you do have a thin lawn and you want to fix it in spring after winter happens, after you have a whole bunch of die-off, the best course of action is to literally put annual ryegrass seed, just overseed it into your lawn somewhere around the 1st of March. But don't just put it on snow. Make sure that you're doing it on, let's call it a cold winter day, late winter day, if your lawn doesn't have snow on it. Put the seed on the lawn. Even if it frosts, freezes, or snows on top of it, it's going to be fine. The thing is here, you want to expect it to not germinate fast. But because it is annual ryegrass, it will germinate in 4 to 5, maybe 6 days if you have a warm weekend, a warm stretch, and the conditions present themselves. In almost all scenarios, by the time the 1st of April rolls around, unless you happen to be in Alaska or some sort of tundra up north, by the time April rolls around, a lot of that grass seed will literally have germinated, and you'll have baby grass in the lawn at the very beginning of spring. If you put down any other grass seed, you would still be waiting. Yes, Esther? Come here. Oh, come here. Give me a big hug. I'm filming a video right now. Can I finish filming? And then I'll go do it?
Are you almost done?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of it, yeah. I'm almost done. The hardest part is setting up. Now, most sprinkler systems are shut off at the end of February and the first part of March. So what I suggest that you do is purchase a very cheap, inexpensive product called Soil Moist. I bought it. I own it in the garage. I've used it in other projects. It's a weird little product. It's kind of a little dust. You mix the grass seed in it. It coats the seed, and then you put it on the ground. And when you sprinkle the water, so say for instance with your hose or maybe a rain, the dust is actually adhered to the seed coating, and it retains water in the seed. So you don't literally have to water it very often. You could just wait for Mother Nature to rain every now and then and use the early season weather to keep it moist for the entire month. Now, although I'm talking about annual ryegrass, you might be tempted to put down a perennial ryegrass, and that is an option. However, I would caution you that perennial ryegrass is different from annual ryegrass. It does germinate slightly slower, and it does take slightly longer for it to root down. It is a perennial grass type. An annual grass type is supposed to go through its life cycle fast. So a perennial type is going to be putting in a lot more energy into its roots, trying to establish its root system to be able to put up with heat during the summer and freezing during the winter. It takes too long to establish. I don't recommend the normal average person to put down a perennial grass type in March and hope to get it to go through the spring and then persist through the summer, because it takes longer to germinate and it takes longer to establish itself. It's not likely to harden itself off by the time summer rolls around. So really by the time late May and June starts rolling around and temperatures are quite high and days are quite long, you're still going to have an awful lot of bare spots and bare dirt sitting in your lawn. We're actively choosing to plant an annual, a temporary grass seed because we don't want to attempt or hope or cross our fingers that a perennial grass will grow through the spring and then make it all the way through the summer. Annual rye is supposed to be a temporary grass cover. It's supposed to grow quickly. It's supposed to sprout quickly and die in the summer. And it's perfectly able to germinate in cool weather. It's the perfect way to easily cover up bare dirt in the very earliest part of the season so that you can crowd out weeds throughout the spring and have a respectable lawn. And because you're not supposed to expect annual ryegrass to make it through the summer, you don't have to worry about applying herbicides to the lawn later in the spring and damaging the rye. It's going to die off anyway. And even better, you don't have to worry about it persisting in your lawn, infesting your lawn for years to come, because it isn't a perennial. It's got an annual life cycle. And if it dies in the summer, you don't have to worry about it getting mixed into your ultimate long-term lawn. The lawn that isn't going to be annual rye is not going to be mixed in there for the next handful of years. You're not going to be battling it. Now, if you do start growing annual ryegrass in early March going into spring and you don't apply a pre-emergent, you might end up having early season crabgrass growth. And you'll probably have a few other weeds that are germinating and growing through the lawn because of the lack of pre-emergent. This is the perfect time of year to apply quinclorac to the lawn. Quinclorac is a product that will kill crabgrass, and it has the ability to kill off a number of broadleaf weeds. Now, it's not going to kill everything. It's not a three-way, four-way herbicide, but it is capable of killing off the crabgrass before peak growth during the summer. And because annual ryegrass is fully resistant to quinclorac, you're not going to damage the lawn either. Now, by the time late July rolls around, you're probably still going to have a good, decent amount of healthy, desirable turf grass with minimal weeds. But much of that annual ryegrass will have died or will be dying due to the high temperatures and high heat of summer. This is actually the point where you overseed your long-term desirable perennial grass seed into the lawn, and you're going to use the dying annual ryegrass as shade, as cover, as a protectant, so those new baby grass seeds, the ones that you want for the long term, can actually grow up and not die off in the mid to late summer heat. This could be a perennial ryegrass, this could be a Kentucky bluegrass, or a turf-type tall fescue. But so long as you leave that dying or dead annual ryegrass in place, the new grass will grow in just fine with minimal effort. If you do end up applying new grass seed into the dying annual ryegrass at the end of July, somewhere around the middle part of August, your long-term grass seed is actually going to be sprouts in the lawn, and it's going to start growing. And 2 months later, by the time October rolls around, they'll be mature enough for you to apply another round of weed killer if you choose to do so. At that point, you might apply the quinclorac again. However, your crabgrass problem is most likely gone at this stage. So a standard three-way herbicide, something that you buy off the shelf at your local store or something premium that you're going to purchase online, is going to do great. The point here is by mid-October, upwards of Halloween, you're going to have a lawn that is considerably thick, full of desirable turf grass with very minimal weed pressure. Now, if you do choose to take this simple route, this simple spring lawn fix route, you got to understand that you're going to be applying weed killer twice throughout the year, like a blanket application in most cases, twice throughout the year, as opposed to applying one round of pre-emergent to cover you for the whole season. The saving grace, however, is that you're going to have desirable grass covering all of the bare dirt for the vast majority of the year, as opposed to applying a pre-emergent and mowing and fertilizing, constantly trying to expand lateral growth and tillering, and then finally, by the time the end of summer rolls around, overseeding a heavily dirt lawn. Weirdly enough, that is the most advised, like the best advised course of action, but you have a dirt lawn a lot of the year. Taking this simple approach will give you coverage of a nice fluffy grass for a good long time, more of the year than the alternative. Now, I should also say that this is the simple spring lawn fix. If you got a thin lawn going into spring and you want to fix it, this is the simple way. There are better ways to do it. I've done multiple ways and I've demonstrated them on this channel before. Problem is that they're more time-consuming, more physically difficult, and expensive. Down in the description below, I'm going to link to a video that I made a couple years ago where I put perennial ryegrass down into the lawn, into a section of the lawn in the early part of spring. I grew it, I managed weeds, but it took a lot of effort. I'm also going to link to a video series where I planted fescue into another lawn in the early part of spring and babied it the whole way through the summer, and it ended up looking great, but it was a lot of work. The ultimate lawns ended up looking better. I advise taking a look at one or both of those videos if you're considering trying out the harder route for yourself. Now, as it pertains to the topic of this video, roughly 12 months ago, back in the spring of 2023, I did a very close version of this spring annual rye lawn fix. Back over there on the other side of the driveway, I had largely a bare dirt surface, and I planted annual rye into it, grew through the spring, and transitioned the entire area to Kentucky bluegrass for the fall. What you see is the result of the efforts of basically what I'm telling you in this video. At the time, I dubbed that my grow a brand new lawn in 10 days. The video's been heavily watched. If you haven't watched it, I invite you to watch it right now. That's also linked down in the description because it shows you almost exactly what I'm telling you to do right now. Alternatively, you can watch the video about fixing your lawn in about 3 weeks, so long as you're willing to wait all the way through, probably halfway through summer. There's so many options to choose from, I know. So just choose at least one and get started. With my daughter wrestling my cat, I invite you, if you have no idea where to start with your lawn care journey this year, I do have a free, I don't know where to start lawn care series. It's over on the Turp Mechanic website. That is linked in the description below.